All right, so let's talk about the Good Samaritan. We all think we know this story, right? It's the go-to example for kindness. But what if I told you that's just scratching the surface? What if it's actually a profound story of restoration, with a hidden code just waiting to be unlocked? That's exactly what we're going to do.
It all kicks off with this one seemingly simple question. A lawyer trying to corner Jesus asks, "And who is my neighbor?" This question sparks one of the most famous stories ever told, but the answer Jesus gives is absolutely not what this guy was expecting.
So first up, let's just do a quick recap. We've got to make sure we're all on the same page with the version of the story most of us grew up with. You know, the classic tale about being nice to people in need. The plot is pretty straightforward. A guy gets mugged and left for dead. A priest and a Levite, the religious folks, see him and just walk on Guy. But then a Samaritan, who was basically a sworn enemy of the Jewish people at the time, he's the one who stops. He not only helps the man, but he also pays for his recovery. It's a great story about mercy for sure, but this is really just the first layer.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. We have to look at why Jesus even tells this story. It's all a response to that lawyer who, let's be honest, wasn't really looking for an answer, he was looking for a loophole.
Yep, the Bible is very clear about this. It says the lawyer asked the question, desiring to justify himself. He wanted to find the line. He was trying to figure out the absolute minimum he had to do to fulfill the commandment, basically asking, so who can I get away with not loving?
And here is the genius of Jesus' response. He completely flips the script. At the end of the story, he never actually answers the lawyer's original question. Instead, he asks a totally different one. The lawyer asks, "Who is my neighbor?" trying to define who is worthy. Jesus turns it around and asks who proved to be a neighbor, forcing the lawyer to look at his own actions.
So you see the shift. It's huge. Jesus takes the focus off of defining other people and puts it squarely on examining our own character. The question is no longer about who deserves my help. The real question is, am I the kind of person who helps? Am I a neighbor? Okay, but the story gets even deeper. This wasn't just some random tale Jesus cooked up on the spot. He was actually pulling from his audience's own history, telling a story that would have been incredibly familiar to them.
You have to remember, for his first-century Jewish listeners, the specific details here, a Samaritan helping a man from Judah, on the road to Jericho of all places, this would have immediately clicked. It was a direct callback to a specific event in the Old Testament, from the book of 2 Chronicles.
And when you lay them out side by side, it's just stunning. Look at these parallels. In 2 Chronicles, Samaritans show mercy to their wounded enemies from Judah. They bind their wounds, put them on donkeys, and take them to, you guessed it, Jericho. It's almost the exact same story. Jesus is brilliantly retelling a true story from his people's own history to show them what being a neighbor actually looks like. Okay, so we've got the historical key. Now we're ready to unlock the allegorical code. For centuries, Christian thinkers have seen every single piece of this parable as a symbol, pointing to the much bigger story of salvation.
So first, who is the Samaritan? He represents Jesus Christ. Think about it. Jesus was an outsider, rejected by the religious elite, and he's the one who saw all of humanity beaten down and dying, and was moved with compassion to come and save us.
And the inn, this place of healing where the man is taken, that symbolizes the church. The innkeeper, then, represents all of us in the church, who have been entrusted with the ongoing care of wounded people.
What about the 2 coins the Samaritan hands over? Well, what started this whole conversation? The 2 great commandments, to love God and to love your neighbor. These are the 2 coins, the very resources Christ gives his church to bring about healing.
And the oil and wine used to clean the wounds, those are symbols of the sacraments, things like baptism and communion. They're the spiritual tools of healing that Christ gave to the church to care for the broken. And if that wasn't enough, the setting itself is just wow. The road from Jerusalem down to Jericho was a steep, dangerous descent. It's the very same path Jesus himself would soon walk on his journey to the cross, where he would descend into death itself to rescue us.
So after all of that, the history, the allegory, how do we read that famous last line? Go and do likewise. It suddenly becomes so much more than just a piece of moral advice, doesn't it?
It's a full-on commission. It's an invitation to join in the massive, world-changing healing work of Christ. It's a call to actively make neighbors, to go out and create relationships, not just sit back and try to figure out who qualifies.
But here's the final and maybe most crucial twist.
We aren't the hero of this story. We are not the Samaritan. In this grand allegory, our starting point is the man in the ditch, beaten, broken, helpless, and completely unable to save ourselves.
The only reason we can even begin to go and do likewise is because Christ, the true Good Samaritan, came to us first. He found us in our ditch, He healed our wounds, and He made us His neighbor when we had nothing to offer. Any mercy we show is just a small echo of the incredible mercy we've already been given.
And so the story ends with this powerful charge from the Samaritan to the innkeeper, which is really Christ's charge to His church. Take care of them until I return. So the parable doesn't just leave us asking, who is my neighbor? It leaves us with a much bigger question. Will I join in the work of healing the wounded that Christ has entrusted to my care?